Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wirex Podcast. I'm Lianna, your host, and today we're diving into an exciting topic: how blockchain is shaking up the real estate world. From simplifying the buying process to making property investments more accessible, Web3 is changing the game. To help us unpack all of this, I'm joined by Darren Carvalho, co-founder and co-CEO of MetaWealth. Darren and his team are leading the way in combining blockchain technology with real estate. Darren, thanks for joining us, and it's great to have you here.
Hey, Lianna. Hey, team. It's really great to be here. Excited to dive deep on the conversation about everything real estate tokenization and Web3 and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But maybe first, let's dive into your professional background and your journey and how you got here.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've had a pretty decorated journey, I'd say, to get here. Not a very typical path. I started off in University of Toronto, so I'm originally a Canadian, studying computer science, and that's actually where I met one of my co-founders. From there, I went to Ivy Business School in the Toronto region as well, and that's where I kind of got that mixture of my tech background being computer science, and then moving on to a business degree as well to get that full flavor. Then I went to join Toronto Dominion Bank, which is one of the biggest banks in Canada and now North America. And I was building out their AI platform. So we were deploying AI use cases across the bank, seeing, this was in 2016 before AI was cool. So there was a lot of experimentation, and I got to touch every aspect of financial services, which was really nice. And then from there, I joined Goldman Sachs, and I was working with the investment banking and growth equity teams, particularly looking at AI and ML companies, whether we would make an investment or make a partnership with the company or things like that. And then from there, I started MetaWealth. So it's kind of been a step-by-step approach, but eventually it led me to MetaWealth, which is essentially the mixture of everything. We're taking a brand new innovative technology, overlaying it onto an alternative asset class that hasn't really been touched for 1,000 years, and putting those two things together and moving forward with that. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Amazing. And I really love the way you said, you were working with AI before it was cool. Yeah. Can you briefly, maybe explain how blockchain technology is currently being used in real estate?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a couple different perspectives, right? The way we're doing is not necessarily the only way that blockchain is being used in real estate. Some other ways I've heard is people that have, let's say, maybe made a lot of money in Bitcoin over the past couple bull runs up. Obviously, there's a lot of money sitting out there now, and some companies help those individuals off ramp their money and use that for real estate investments. So that's one angle. On the MetaWealth side, what we do is a little bit different. We take large real estate assets, something that maybe a Blackstone or a BlackRock would invest in traditionally. We tokenize that big investment. So let's say it's a block of 30 apartments. We tokenize them into small fractions, and we allow the retail market, the family office market, any market basically to invest in these products with us. So what that does is it basically democratizes the investing in real estate, and we level the playing field across all of these different levels of investors so that everybody can participate together. And that's kind of our mission, is getting everybody on that same playing field when it comes to high quality investing. And when you're looking at real estate, there's so many intricacies that make up a good real estate deal, right? You have to look at the finance, the accounting, the asset management, who's gonna deal with the tenant at 3 a.m. when the toilet blows up, right? Like things like that. And with MetaWealth, basically all of these things that make it tough for someone to be a real estate investor, we make that super easy. So just like as you go to Robinhood or Wealthfront or Wealthsimple or any of these apps to buy stocks, MetaWealth can be kind of seen as the same similar platform or the same similar experience, instead for investing in real estate. And of course, over time, we will expand into other alternative asset classes that were once hard to reach and make them super easy. And that's part of our mission. We want to become the ultimate wealth management platform for everyone.
Yeah, no, it sounds really exciting, especially when, you're leveling the playing field, right, for people, for investors. But let's take a few steps back. And, when did the real estate industry first begin exploring blockchain, and what were the initial reactions?
Yeah, I think like in the past, there's been a lot of buzz, especially in previous cycles. So we're talking like between 2015, 2017, around, taking a very traditional market, as I mentioned previously. So real estate investing or real estate ownership is not new, right? We're talking about something that's happened for maybe 1,000 years. And a lot of people have said, okay, hey, like, there's been so many technological advantages across like finance and wealth for the past, 20, 30 years, but nothing's really touched real estate, right? When I think about real estate, maybe the biggest technical advantage I can think of is the MLS, putting, a deed on a online website and someone can go and view it. They can't transact there. They can't do anything like that, but they can view the property, right? And that's kind of as far as it's gone, which is it's quite sad because real estate is one of the biggest markets in the world. Like if you look at the global market for real estate, you're talking like maybe $350 trillion across the globe. And for a website to be kind of the biggest technological advantage of the past couple decades is quite alarming, I would say. So yeah, so in that 2015 to 2017 time period, I think a lot of people are looking at, okay, like how can we make this more efficient? Like, faster transactions, faster cross-border money movement, transparency, all of those things sound great. But I don't think that like, any kind of significant movement was made, particularly because the industry is so old, right? Like there's so many moving parts, so many intermediaries. There's the notary, you got your finance teams, you got their finance, the seller's finance teams, the buyer's finance teams. It's just a very clunky machine that's been accumulating for so long that nothing ever really picked up. So it's hard to say like, where was blockchain thought about at the beginning? I can tell you that blockchain never really picked up in real estate up until I would say the past year or two. And I do think that MetaWealth has been one of the leaders in the space of what we're doing, and we've been able to actually get some really good traction from our approach.
Yeah, and I just really wanted to maybe circle back to something you mentioned earlier, about democratizing real estate ownership, right? Do you see, obviously, like, blockchain can democratize real estate ownership, but what about the people in developing countries? Do you see that happening for them as well?
This is actually somewhere where like they have the most benefits because if I look at like where I'm from, like Toronto or America in general, the the technology is there, the systems in the back end are kind of there, right? What we're doing is we're making it super easy for people to get more access. We're making transaction speeds lower, but at the end of the day, like it's just a time efficiencies and stuff like that, right? Which is great, which is really good. In developing countries, we're talking actually to a couple, which I can't mention the exact names, but they're thinking of skipping the whole website and Web 2 approach and going straight to blockchain. And then the reason that they're doing that is they're like, okay, why are we going to just play catch up with the technology we're using and get to a place where America has been for the past 10 years? Instead, we'll move right to Web 3. We'll put for example, a house as one token, and then we'll transact that token from now on, so people can basically do transactions on their own. And I think that's a huge advantage. But to allude it back to MetaWealth again, on our side, if you're sitting in a developing country and you want access to tier one real estate investments in America or in Europe or in Asia, it's not always that easy, right? You need to be like, real estate is a very touch and feel kind of the product to make a good investment. You need to be able to see the properties, feel it out, who's in the market, who's buying, who's selling, what's a good area, what's a good neighborhood, what's like going to be the next big neighborhood, right? Those things are very like boots on the ground kind of work. But with MetaWealth, we do that boots on the ground work for everybody. We summarize all of our findings and research and third party research material all on the app, so that someone can basically sit on their laptop or their phone, take a look at all this information, and then make a decision for themselves. Do I trust this information, believe this information, and believe in the investment, and then invest or not? And they can do that from like whatever point of the world they're at, really. And that's really the democratization aspect, is that borders no longer really matter in this world.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about, like, the marginalized communities, right? Because sometimes, that they really have no access to what's out there, right? And we take that for granted. But what role do smart contracts play in streamlining transactions, and what risks come with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is kind of the bread and butter of our product, right? Without smart contracts and this level of technology, I don't think we would have much of a competitive advantage. But with them, we have a significant technical moat. And I would say the biggest things I can explain it through an example. So, like, my co-founder and I, we were in Silicon Valley. I think about a year ago, we were talking to a major bank there who wanted to do business with us. They wanted to help us with some of the transactions that we're doing for our investors, particularly, like, if someone invests with us on one asset package, we usually have investors from 23 different countries. So obviously that's abnormal, right? Normally a real estate investment, you have one owner, two owners, three owners, that's about it. Well, we have, like, 300 owners from 23 different countries, very different. So we were talking to this big bank and we are saying, okay, like, if we wanted to do this with you guys, distributing our yields every month to our investors, how would that work out, right? And then the bank said, "Oh yeah, definitely we can help you. This is a easy one for us. We do distributions and we do like checking accounts, savings accounts, and money movement for investors all the time." We said, "Okay, great. So every month, how long is it going to take for us to distribute our yields?" And they're like, "Okay, so we got to connect your investors' bank accounts. You got to put the money into like a master bank account, and then this bank account will do all the distributions, and it should take 2 to 3 weeks a month." And then on our side, we're just like, what the hell? We're not going to spend 2 to 3 weeks worth of our time every month. So basically, 50 to 75% of the month every month to distribute yields. It just makes no sense. What we are going to do with smart contracts is spend about 10 seconds and using an automated script, no human intervention, to distribute all our funds to our investors. And that is, like, the power of smart contracts. We took something that's going to take 3 weeks and made it 10 seconds with a script that we use every month. We don't even have to think about it. And, that speaks volumes about the technology and what's possible here, right? And that script is doing it across all of our investors, all the different countries, and it's taking seconds.
No, definitely, and I think it's definitely streamlining transactions, right? And it's done in a way that everyone uh, can trust. What are the major hurdles? Whether it's legal, technical, or cultural, that blockchain faces in being adopted in real estate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all of the above. Like, all of these things are quite big aspects to tackle. I think when you're looking at picking one over the other, I would say legal right now, legal and regulatory are some of the highest. And the reason for that is that like I said, they were talking about 1,000-year-old kind of system that has built upon over years, right? So there's a lot of people taking cuts. There's a lot of people taking fees or wanting to be involved, or the proofs and checks and balances and customer protection and regulations and all of that stuff, right? And when you say, okay, hey guys, like, we want to do all what you're doing and we want to use new technology, that's something that, one, kind of scares people, and two, like, they don't understand the technology, right? So that kind of brings a lot of additional, let's say, hurdles to what we're building than initially anticipated, right? For on our side, we're like, okay, we know we have this purchase of sales agreement, we have this technology, let's link the two and move on. And then you get everybody under the sun on the regulation side saying, hey, what are you guys doing, right? But I think, like, that's part of the process, and that is a little bit of a moat on our side, is that we need to be able to work with all of these people because we really believe in regulation, we believe in licensing, we believe in customer protection and all of the above. And we've made that a priority for our platform. So our platform, right now we're selling our financial security, and everything is like, checks and balances above board. And that's kind of also why I think we have a significant advantage over, any new incumbents in the space, but also any existing competitors that we're dealing with.
And do you believe that blockchain could fully replace traditional real estate systems, or will it always remain a supplementary tool?
I think that it will fully replace. I think that there's kind of like, even if you look at like the regulation level or like the large institution level, everybody has kind of that goal in mind, right? I think you know, blockchain and decentralized ledger technology has been around long enough, and it's been a little bit tested and experimented with long enough to say that it's going to be very instrumental in the future. In terms of the timeline, it's hard to say. Like, it could be really quick. It could be 5 years, and it could be 25 years, depending on all of these different players that have to approve of what's going on, right? But I think, like, just based on the technical advantages and making it easy for consumers, there's no reason why you would want to stay off of the technology. So I think that, like, overall, it will be a full takeover. It will look very different than today. I think, like, in terms of what we're doing today, we're kind of like tokenizing these existing financial instruments. Eventually, it'll be not tokenizing financial instruments, but the tokens will be financial instruments themselves. And that's where you get the true, let's say, velocity of what we're trying to do, because you're not looking to interact with any kind of off-chain provider anymore. And that's when, it becomes really interesting, actually.
So, what kind of collaboration do you foresee between blockchain innovators and traditional real estate giants?
Well, I think that that's actually already happening, right? So, even at MetaWealth, we are talking to a lot of large institutions. I'm talking about large banks. We're trying to get more involved right now with traditional asset managers, real estate funds, and the like. I think there's been a much more receptance towards the technology and where it's going. A lot of the big financial institutions are already building their own platforms. So that's super positive, because we're seeing, how do we interoperate with these platforms? That's our first goal. Is okay, like, there's products on these platforms. How do we integrate that with our product shelf? And I see that as kind of like the first foray into a real partnership there. And on the real estate fund side, it's more about educating on the technological advantages or even commercial advantages of getting involved with us. So, for example, on a real estate fund side, traditionally, if they had a capital call on their fund, and someone says, I need $3 million back, they might have to go out and liquidate some of that real estate to be able to fulfill their obligation, right? But if they had tokenization and use tokenization, they could say, okay, instead of me liquidating a $10 million real estate asset just to pay you back 3 million, I'll go sell $3 million worth of tokens to someone else, and I'll pay you back your money, right? So there's a lot of different advantages, even on the larger side, when you're talking about big institutional money, that real estate will really, the tokenization of real estate will really solve for them, right? So I think that's where it's kind of going.
That's really interesting. And, could a handful of blockchain platforms control real estate transactions, lead to a new kind of monopoly, you think?
Well, I think, like, it's actually been tried a little bit. I know with one particular financial institution, they built a big, really successful digital assets platform, and the centralization of the technology, I think, breaks down in certain respects when you try to own it and you try to funnel everything through you. Like, I think a lot of, like, for example, if you're trying to transact with a competitor, they're going to be reluctant to put their information on your platform, right? So I think over time, what I've seen is that a lot of these platforms actually naturally, just through market dynamics, become decentralized. And even if they don't want to use the word decentralized, that's essentially what's happening. And I think that's kind of like, MetaWealth's goal is that we're definitely a decentralized, like, play on what we're doing. And that's the way it has to be. And we want to interoperate with any chain, any platform, any, entity. And that's really the vision of, like, the technology overall. The technology overall is kind of following these standards. So do I see, like, centralized platforms kind of owning this space? No, I don't. I don't think that in the long term, that's the way it's going to work. And organically, everybody will move to decentralized just because of the benefits that I just mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's really insightful. And if you could buy any property in the world using blockchain tomorrow, what would it be and why?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I think, like, when we were looking at property right now, and what does best for us and our investors is that sexiness aspect, right? So, a lot of people, if they live in London, they are kind of, they're if they were to buy a normal apartment in London, it wouldn't be a big thing, right? If we brought to them like, some random house in some random town, it would be cool investment for them. Maybe they like the numbers, but it's not gonna, get anybody's juices flowing. And when we look for, properties now, we're looking at like, some of the nicest areas in Europe, right? We're looking at the south of Spain, we're looking at Greece, south of France, London, in really prime areas. Like we're looking for really like, eye-catching properties. So if I had to say, a piece of real estate that I would really want to tokenize, I think it would have to be something like that, right? Something iconic. Something like the Burj Khalifa, or something in America like the Freedom Tower. Something like that would be really cool to do, and I think that would draw a lot of attention. It would get like a lot of patriotic investor dollars or something like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I also love that you mentioned like, yeah, presentation and how everything looks is still really important, right? Is
Yeah.
there anything else you'd like to add?
I think overall, what I would like to add is on, where we're going with MetaWealth. Right now, we have a beautiful platform that delivers some really great products for our customers. Like the real estate assets that we're pushing out right now are delivering about 20% ROI annually, which is super attractive. It's in the nicest areas in Europe. But looking into the future, I think, the way we want to position ourselves is the wealth management super app for everybody. And with that, like, we want to make sure that all of our users are handled A to Z when we're talking about wealth management, right? So portfolio diversification, asset acquisition, asset allocation, like all of these things, we want to be able to have an impact on people's lives. So we really encourage people to start getting involved with the platform now, start learning, and even start giving feedback to us on what they want to see next in terms of the product suite. But yeah, that's kind of my point of view.
Thank you so much, Darren. And that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. A big thank you to Darren for sharing his insights on how Web3 is transforming real estate. If you're curious to learn more, be sure to check out MetaWealth and what they're working on. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone you find who will find this interesting. I'm Lianna, and I'll see you next time on the Wirex Podcast.